Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr., your go-to wellness coaches of StressFreeNow.info. Our featured guest today is Roberta Mittman, personal revolution coach and professional acupuncturist, back with us again today. Roberta is a dedicated alternative healthcare practitioner, health and wellness coach, speaker, author, licensed acupuncturist, and certified nutritional consultant. She is the founder of the Park Avenue Center for Well-Being. Roberta serves the New York City area as well as those from around the world who connect with her for guidance to attain healthy, happy, and luxuriously empowered lives. Roberta specializes in guiding women through a quiet revolution to look and feel trim, vital, elegant, and unstoppable. Her magic, the perfect holistic blend of timeless Eastern principles and cutting-edge Western information. A self-proclaimed chocolate enthusiast, she's also the author of Ultimate Wellness, the 3 mental shifts you can use to change the course of your health right now. Roberta, welcome. Bob and I are so happy to have you on the show today.
Roberta, I want to welcome you, and you are the author of Ultimate Wellness, the 3 mental shifts you can use to change the course of your health right now. Could you talk about a little bit about and share how you came to write that book?
Oh, I'd be happy to. Thank you. And I really just have to thank you again for inviting me for your wonderful podcast. It's really an honor. I came to write that because I wanted to compile some of my thoughts about different topics into it's like a small resource that explains a little bit about my modality and the way I work. A lot has to do with the mindset and the way we approach our health and our issues. And my three holistic approaches are I call the 3 R's. They're recognize, reframe, and reclaim. So I've grouped certain conditions, certain issues under those 3 with a little bit of an explanation about why that's under there and how one can actually travel from one to the other. So the first step is recognize, what is really going on. Let's get a reality check and be real. The second one is let's reframe it. Let's look at it in the way it really is, not the story we've created about it, but how is this really, and how is this really affecting us, and what are some of the there's always lessons in things. And number 3 would be to reclaim. So to take it to the next step and actually reclaim your life, and your best life, should we say, because there's so much out there and there's so much that we can do to actually kind of transform our thinking and our health.
Wonderful, Roberta. You know, recently I checked out one of your blog posts, and it was so attractive to me because you had before and after, because that's what people really want to know. They go, what's the benefit to me, and what is the problem or challenge you're going to solve for me, right? And so you, in a blog post on telomeres, you showed very clearly the difference between the short telomere and the longer telomere in terms of how it affects the aging process, and how the lengthening it is a good anti-aging approach for scavenging free radicals, etc. What amazed me about your post is that you were able to take a very complex issue and make it very simple. And so my hat's off to you, because when you get into the some of the neuroscience and neuropsychological terminology, it could easily turn the average person off when you start using certain terms. But so since you have been able to put it in such an elegant way that a fifth grader could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share that with our audience? I know they'll really appreciate it. Somebody could be in their car listening to this, and they're saying, "Hey, she's talking to me. She's not talking gobbledygook." So please, that it was beautiful. I always love to read writing that's clear the way you did it with the nice visuals, and so your job well done with your blog post on telomeres.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, I guess my first question to ask you is, do you think our listeners know what telomeres are?
Absolutely not. I mean, if I asked people who were psychologists, can you tell me? It's a very slender area of neuroscience and neuropsychology, and perhaps a couple of other fields. But even people in the field might not be able to find it, even if they know what it is. So you've gone beyond that to show the benefits of knowing about it and how it can improve your healthy well-being and make you look better. Who doesn't want to look better?
Mm-hmm. That's right. So that's, I think, why people will probably pay attention, because if one knew that there is actually now something that's been discovered that can tell you how your body is actually aging from the cellular level inside, and it could possibly affect your health span, which means the number of healthy years you have left. There's a lifespan, but there's also a health span. And tell you, like, how is your body aging, and there's actually something you could do about it. That got my attention for sure.
Right.
So, yeah. So a telomere, the best, I think, visual is when you have shoelaces with they're like the plastic caps that go on the ends of your shoelaces to prevent them from fraying and unraveling. And that's exactly what telomeres do. They're on the end of the chromosomes. We have 23 pairs. And what they do is they protect the chromosomes from fraying and from sticking to each other and losing genetic material. So they really do protect your chromosomes. They're actually very important because they can be depleted, and it's important to make sure that you have nurture them and keep them as long as possible. I think my headline was, when it comes to aging, size really does matter, because the longer your telomere, science tells us, the longer and healthier you'll be. So that's basically what they are.
Well, the beauty of what you just said, Roberta, is that I think most people, and I'm saying most, know what a shoelace is. Although I continue to be amazed that, I meet people all the time that, like, for example, you mentioned Marcus Welby. Someone may have never heard of him, wouldn't know that was a TV show, et cetera. So I'm going to take you back further and talk about Dr. Kildare. And
oh my goodness, I remember him too.
Well, now we know now we know what herd we're in. So,
exactly.
but here's the benefit as a visual. That when you were talking, I think it's very important to be able to translate, and very helpful when you can translate the science into a way that people can understand it, why it's important. If you think about what you said, a shoelace, there's that plastic coating on the end that keeps it from getting frayed, so that when your shoelaces come out, or even when the shoelaces are new, you can thread the shoelace through the hole, right, so that you can lace up your shoes. That's
exactly.
pretty, yeah. So guess what happens when that thing starts to fray? It gets harder and harder to thread the shoelace through the hole. In fact, if it ever comes off, everybody knows it's a mess. You can't. Maybe you almost need a needle to be able to put the shoelace through, or you just try to get new shoelaces. So thank you for that, because, like I said, that is a complex idea of what a telomere is, but comparing it to a shoelace makes it very simple. And then you gave me another light bulb, which would be, when I think about the multiple sclerosis and what happens to people with the sheathing gets worn, et cetera, the myelinated versus the unmyelinated fibers, you just made me remember that there may be a relationship there. So thank you so much for that answer. And I just want to ask you this question. Many of us are dealing with chronic stress or chronic pain or anxiety disorders or grieving. So that tends to be very hard. So you, as you said in the previous broadcast, in your own life that you were up against the stress burnout wall. So if you were going to give one piece of advice, Roberta, what could a person do to minimize their stress, anxiety, pain, and even grief, that if they could just do one thing, what could you suggest something to our audience that they could implement that would make their life better, easier, and maybe less stressful and pain-free?
Let's think. It's hard. I can think of so many things. My brain is kind of going through this so quickly. But let's see. I think that I'm going to choose the one thing. This is like it's usually my take on things, is really to rewrite the script of your life, because you
I like that.
Yes. We can rewrite that. A lot of things are put in place for when we were younger. They were survival skills that no longer serve us. And I work with people over and over, and so many times with their health, with their stress, with whatever is going on, most of the time it's a trigger from something that went before. And if people can understand that emotions are histories of the past, that they can actually start to change that script a little bit about how they are in the world. And most of the things that they were told or believe are simply not true. So, can
you repeat that, Roberta? I think that is a really beautiful thing that you said, that the last sentence. Could you just repeat that?
Sure. That emotions are basically histories of the past, and that if we can be aware of exactly what that emotion is, and we can kind of and start to figure out what the trigger was, or just to realize that many times it's just a movie that we've made up about something or someone, or that we've been told by someone, and that it just isn't really true.
Thank you for that. That is so beautiful, and that is something that Christine and I talk about from time to time. In fact, we were at an event, and a person actually mentioned that sometimes a person would have something against someone or holding something against them, and it's all in their head. It never even really happened, and the other person is not even aware that the person is angry at them or has some kind of malice against them, because it didn't happen, or the way it happened, it was just they had embellished this thing, and it, how the negative self-talk can take on, it can just go to the races. It created this whole scenario that's not real.
It's absolutely true. And, there's somebody, I don't know if you're familiar with Byron Katie, and, she'll talk about the fact, she has these 4 questions that is exercise that she has people ask themselves about getting clarity in their life and understanding that most of people's suffering and unhappiness and stress is coming from a story that no longer serves them. And they can actually either be present in where they are, or, like I say, let's start to craft even a better story that serves you now, your script, because even the telomere situation, it's really very similar, because we can actually have more control than we think we can. It's not all preordained. This is not the way it's got to be. That we have a lot of personal freedom and personal power to make these changes if we want to be very clear and be present in our lives.
That is fantastic what you just said, Roberta. Christine, could you just since Roberta brought up the idea of story, I know you have done a lot of work with reality tales and with other people. There's a way, Miguel Ruiz talks about the story.
The 5 agreements.
Could you just speak to that a little bit?
Well, it's simply that we understand each other by our story, but not to hold on to the story. Because, as you said, Roberta, this thing is in the past.
Right. I love him. I love that person we're referring to with the 5 agreements, because it's really getting detached from that story.
It's about being detached. You are not your story. That was something that happened in the past, and that's not in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can re-script your story. You can make your present anything you want it to be. And I think that's what people sometimes forget. They stay in weakness and they stay in a victim mode. And this is it's something understandable, and I think that's why people go to coaches or acupuncturists like yourself, so that they can understand, they can move forward from that, and they can let that go, that is in the past. Now, Roberta, you generally work with women over 40. What are the greatest challenges that your patients or clients come to you with?
I would say the number one, in all honesty, the number one challenge that people come to me for is weight loss. I have to say that is so interesting, because that's where it starts. Not where it ends, but that's where it starts. That seems to me, and I'm always like, sometimes there's also just energy that they feel like sluggish, and they kind of they just notice that they don't have the same battery charge that they used to have, and they really can't keep up. Or they feel that they've lost their confidence and they're unsure about what the next years are going to bring. Or they're having a transition. They've had a loss, or they've had a divorce, or their children have grown up, or they have children and older parents at the same time, that little sandwich. They're caretaking.
That sounds like a big sandwich.
That's a big sandwich. And also their hormones are different. And their emotions are different. So it's really like all of this is a mixed bag. But many times it's sort of like, I have to do something about this body. And it's a lot of that inner critic work that you were mentioning, because that seems to be the number one, I would say, motivator. It's either to look younger, to lose weight, or to be more attractive, to find love. But those are basically the main reason.
People are looking for love, right? Oh, wow.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, so we will come back and we'll talk more about this after a short break. Audience, we'll be back in a moment on Learn to Live Stress-Free with our featured guest today, personal revolution coach and professional acupuncturist, Roberta Mittman.
Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Wright, Jr., the Stress Relief Doctor, co-host of the Learn to Live Stress-Free podcast series. I'm an author, speaker, and stress management wellness coach. My published study is the first to show the connection between stress reduction, grief recovery, nitric oxide spiking, and the relaxation response. And my practical application of this knowledge helps you relieve the stresses of everyday life. I have the tools to dissolve your pain points quickly and effectively. Email me to find out how you can start to feel better now at stressfreenow.info/contact. That's stressfreenow.info/contact. Have you been procrastinating about completing an important project or pursuing a treasured dream? Christine Wright specializes in helping her coaching clients to lay out clear, elegant strategies. She shows you how to quickly build your confidence, to uncover and eliminate your habitual patterns of resistance and self-sabotage. Christine helps you discover those meaningful insights that will get you to do what works so you can celebrate your successes. Go to stressfreenow.info/contact to let Christine know that you're ready to live your ideal life now. Again, that's stressfreenow.info/contact.
Welcome back to Learn to Live Stress-Free as we continue our conversation with our featured guest today, personal revolution coach and professional acupuncturist, Roberta Mittman.
Roberta, before the break, you mentioned that people the number one reason that people come to you and seek out your services as an acupuncturist is weight loss or to dealing with weight issues. And then right at the tail end, you mentioned love, that relationships, etc. So that was unexpected, or at least on my part. It never occurred to me that a person would go to an acupuncturist and be having that kind of conversation. Could you just talk about that? I think our audience would find that fascinating. I find it very interesting that, as you said, it makes sense now that I think about it. A person is maybe their energy is not where it once was, or like you say, they want to look more attractive, et cetera, and then that would tie in. And then, as if they're over 40, maybe they're thinking of dating again. So now that you said that and I had a little time to think about it, I said, oh, I see that, of course, acupuncture would help that, but it didn't, on the surface, I didn't think of it that way. I think of a person sitting at the bar talking to their bartender or something like that. So that conversation actually happens quite a bit in your practice.
Well, it can, for sure, with women that are single. I mean, that's really many times what they're primarily interested in, looking more attractive and also, and finding somebody. But don't forget, they're not really coming necessarily for acupuncture for that specifically. They're looking for balance and peace and, and confidence and things like that. And many times that's really more of I would say it can be more of a health coaching type of a discussion, because it has a lot to do with mindset and how are they thinking about themselves and what are they bringing into the world that's going to be reflected back to them. I know Christine is probably, understanding that like 100%, because it's really about the story that you've told yourself about yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
so we can
yes.
change that energetic charge or that vision, and that's what you're attracting. So a lot of times we talk about that, and it's really all involved. And, Bob, I'm so glad that you asked me, because in Chinese medicine and alternative medicine, everything is related to everything. In Western medicine, people are looking about what somebody has, what's wrong with them, what's the disease, what's the medicine. And don't get me wrong, I'm very, very friendly with doctors, and they refer people, and I come from a physician family, and they become my patients too, actually, because they like the results they're seeing in their patients. But the Eastern approach is everything affects everything else. So if you're stressed about being alone and you're not being able to find somebody, well, there's so many different ways that you can have a reality check with that, and that you are safe and that you are your best self at any given time. Sometimes it takes time to just realize that and bring that forward. But there's also nutrition, there's exercise, there's relationships, there's family, there's habit. All of those go into everything. So it's not what a person has, it's who that person is. And you have to treat the whole person.
I love it. I just love it. And as we wind down here, I have to go right to this question, Roberta.
Sure.
I have been, even though it's something I've known about for a long time, I have been startled as I dig down into the research and then, also my personal experience, the importance and the role of nutrition, what we put in our mouths. So if you think about it conceptually, besides breathing, which we do all the time, what we put in our mouth is, every day is really key, but we often don't pay attention to it, at least to the degree that we should, until something goes wrong. Like when you were mentioning at an earlier broadcast with us, when you went in for some tests and then you found that you weren't taking care of yourself at the highest level, which included nutrition. And so, although I've known people that had become vegans, I had actually been a vegetarian myself for 10 years. What I'm looking at and seeing in the research now about nutrition, that is much much more critical role in healthy well-being than I had any idea, and it even has the capacity to ameliorate disease states. So can you just speak to how you approach nutrition in your practice as an acupuncturist and a health coach with your clients?
Sure. That really is usually up front and center, because basically I know that, you subscribe to this, this little saying, and that is like, food is medicine. It really can be. And you can change so much about your whole life and about your whole physical state just by changing your diet and eliminating some of the things that are going to bring you down and cause inflammation and pain and foggy thinking and a poor immune system and diabetes. And you can change it and actually have really delicious food, but by making better choices. And some of them really are not that difficult. Sometimes there's a small change that can really make a huge difference. So if I say to you, if you could just take out a lot of those diet drinks, for instance. People think they're going to lose weight because they're having a diet drink, but it's actually backfiring and causing them to gain weight. If you knew that, maybe you'd be more inclined to reach for something else. Not a drink, a sugary drink, but like let's go with green tea with a lot of flavors to it, or water with lemon, or we could think of other things that you might like, seltzer or something like that with lime. There's other things, but it's really just becoming aware of what some of the changes that one could make little by little, and it just your health and your energy system is just going to thank you.
Well, Roberta, I want to thank you for that. The reason that story resonated with me in terms of nutrition, recently there was a news story about a teen boy who died in South Carolina from drinking an energy drink. He had an energy drink, a soda, and
espresso, I believe.
And he had an espresso or something like that, coffee, all within the course of 2 hours, and he died. And so, and then, so you saw that story, and so, he collapsed in art class, and so here was a kid that was in, average health, and, I could just imagine the parents had to be devastated, the family, his classmates, so how many people are out there drinking these things? And so it was in the short time frame. And then when I did a little research, and they were saying some of the energy drinks have up the equivalent up to 28 cups of caffeine of coffee. I was like, oh my gosh. So it's not something that I really had looked into before, but when you see a tragic story like that, it causes you pause to say, hey, because most teenagers, they wouldn't be thinking, oh, if I drink this and I then have a soda, whatever, they wouldn't think anything of it.
Absolutely. It's really true. So in many cases, it's really not good for you. And if, people can, now it's up to people to kind of make that choice and to have some good substitutions that they know about and they could try and get that information. I think that's a really great example. And it seems pretty harmless, but it's not. And even if you don't feel that different, let's just say, it's happening where you can't see it on a cellular level. And that's the thing I always like to tell people. Just because you don't feel badly, you feel okay, what's happening is that your body is actually aging faster.
That is so true. I think there's a level of self-awareness that some people are not very well developed in.
Yep.
And besides that, either having professional help or just having the knowledge of how your body works and what you're putting into your body, because as you said, food is medicine. So all these things are having an effect on us, and not everyone realizes. Another thing, Roberta, which I wanted to talk to you about, that people seem to put on the back burner when they're busy, is sleep. Roberta, so many people, and they take it for a badge of honor. Oh, I don't need that much sleep. But I don't believe that's true at all. And so many people are getting less than the ideal amount of sleep, and
Totally.
so many people have insomnia. And that leads to all sorts of trouble. People, I'm sure, are nodding off on the road, which is not good. And as you said, these things impact aging,
They
stress,
sure do.
relationships, everything else. What do you see in your practice in terms of people who have a sleep deficit?
Well, all of the things that you mentioned are right on. And, as a matter of fact, there's a study that I was actually looking at. I'm sure you're familiar with it, too. I just refreshed myself about it. And that is that if you lose, I forget, exactly how much it was, but like one night of sleep or even less, you are actually have the same brain as like a DWI. Like you're actually
Yes,
be,
I remember that.
physically drunk, right? So that's it's dangerous. It's poor performance. But who can be in a good mood when you're exhausted? And how are you going to be with other people and have patience? So instead of being irritable, and also it's just it's very easy to just get your immune system. I think you're also more prone to flu-like symptoms, and your immune system takes a hit, and you also gain weight. So I'm going to say for all those reasons. Here in New York, this is a very stressed population. I'm not saying that people aren't stressed all over, but here people are not just walking, they're running, and on the street, in the subways. It's like crazy here, and people are extremely stressed. So I see a lot of people who really are have a lot of insomnia, and they have a hard time getting to sleep. And then the other group can get to sleep, but then when they wake up, they have a hard time going back to sleep. So there's two groups.
When you said that, it occurred to me because isn't there the commercial New York, the city that never sleeps?
They don't. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you hear any city noises right now because I'm fairly close to a window, but this you hear all night long. It's not quiet. It doesn't really quiet down. So, and people are really very busy and working late hours, and getting up really early, and they have very full days, and they're running this little rat race. So I like to have people be mindful about that. And there are certain things you can do about sleeping, like powering down before, avoiding a blue light on a screen or a computer, taking a hot bath and having a cool, comfortable room, dark room. There's many things that you can do to set yourself up for success.
Definitely. And I think it's important to do that. I think one of the things, when you mentioned with the blue light, there was a mailing I got from someone, and he was saying that in terms of what he does, he puts down his Kindle or, any kind of electronic thing at a certain hour. He shuts it off, and he bought the special glasses that filter out blue light.
Exactly. They're orange glasses. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They can be very effective. And they also make, Christine, light bulbs that are specifically for that, and you can put them on timers.
I think that's the issue. I've always said, and I'm all for progress. I love my electronics as much as the next person. But what I find is that as individuals and perhaps as a society, we should be looking more at ways to mitigate the effects of the artificial light on us. Because
absolutely.
We don't experience sundown anymore unless we're in a rural area. But in a city, the lights are on all the time.
That's right. That's exactly right. And the blue light specifically it works with your melatonin production. So it makes getting to sleep a little bit more difficult or impossible or whatever. So, yeah, you're so right. And having a little bit of a bedtime routine, just like you would with an infant, is really important to do. So having your own little rituals they're very important.
Yes, I think that's true. I know I try to do that for myself. Now, the thought occurred to me, does acupuncture help with sleeping habits? Or
yes,
does that
it does.
acupuncture help people to sleep?
Yep. It can be extremely helpful. In Chinese medicine, it's really there are different patterns of insomnia. So people would be treated differently based on their constitution and what else is going on with their body. It could be like, in East Chinese medicine, it could be a liver thing. It could be a heart thing. It could be a lot of different, but I'm talking about your Chinese organs. I'm not talking about Western heart. I'm talking about the meridians. And you
Right.
treat them in a different way to let your body settle down and find peace and balance at night.
I see. Excellent. Wow, this is just so fantastic. Roberta, we want to thank you so much for being our featured guest today and for sharing all this wonderful knowledge and experience with our audience. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Roberta, would you tell our audience the best way they can reach you and learn more about what you do?
Sure. That would be probably my website, which is www.robertamittman.com. That's Mittman with an Mittman, 2 T's. I'm also on Facebook, and you can reach me that way. I think that's the best thing. And I'd love, have a nice archive of blogs and things like that for people, and they can kind of they feel like reading a little bit more about some of the things we spoke about today.
Okay, wonderful. So, audience, you can get in touch with Roberta at her website, robertamittman.com. That's RobertaMittman, robertamittman.com. They can also email you. So you can email Roberta at support@robertamittman.com. She's also on Facebook. Roberta, what final thoughts or key idea would you like our audience to take away from today's broadcast?
I have this quote that I am actually loving these days. This is my favorite little quote, and so I thought I'd just read it because this is exactly, I would say, what I would love to tell everybody out there. And that is, I think it's from Anne Lamott from one of her new books. It's, what if you wake up someday and you're 65 and you were just so strung out on perfectionism and people-pleasing that you forgot to have a big, juicy, creative life. So that's what I'm encouraging everybody to go out and have a big, juicy, creative life. It's never too late.
That's fantastic, Roberta. Thank you so much. I think that's a great final parting thought. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it so much.
Fabulous, Roberta. Thank you for being our featured guest today. And audience, I want to thank you for listening in whatever time zone you're in. Thank you so much, audience, for listening. And the best part about podcasting is that you can time shift and listen to this show or any of our shows at any time that you choose to do so. Of course, as always, we welcome your comments and suggestions, and if you'd like us to invite back someone who you've heard before and you enjoyed, like Roberta Mittman, or there's a topic you want us to discuss, please let us know, and you can contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us, including learning how you can get more results in your day and easy ways to dissolve your chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. Mention that you heard our Learn to Live Stress-Free podcast show, and you'll receive a free gift from us. Call today to schedule your free consultation. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright, Jr. of StressFreeNow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.